Hello and welcome to Multiple Game State. Today we are looking at the Helsmiths of Hashut, who are the most recent warband for Warcry. They recently received rules on Warhammer Community, and the models themselves have just recently, in the last week or two, hit stores. These are the Age of Sigmar reimagining of what we would have called the Chaos Dwarfs previously. These are dwarfs who serve the god Hashut. So this is a lower tier chaos god who has given them the ability to harness demonic powers. So if you look at the models here, any of the bits that are glowing a sickly green are being powered by demonic energy, which is a pretty cool idea. Let's have a quick look and an overview of what the warband itself kind of looks like. So this is the broad general view of it, which we've done with a few other warbands. What's notable about this is that it's kind of mediocre. It's kind of average. So if we look at the wounds first, you can see most things are decent. They're like on the line, or in a few cases lower. The bull centaurs are lower because they're fast. Blunderbuss and a flame hurler are both ranged weapons, so that they kind of make sense with the slightly lower wounds that you expect from points. If you go back up to the damage, the Hobgrots are kind of trash damage, but you know, you're getting that for the points, I guess. The Infernal Cohort are going to be your core troops. They're actually decent, so they're looking around 3.5, 3 damage maybe. For what is that? It's 80, 85 points, I guess. So they're not bad. They're kind of a solid core. You can see that Flame Hurler and Demon Smith are just to the right of that. They're low relatively, but they are going to be range weapons. So that might actually turn out to be quite effective. And then we've got the Bull Centaurs that have got good movement. And then far off to the right, we've got the Dominator, which at 300 points is in a league of its own. Okay. So nothing of particular excitement, not in particular interest. And there's a reason for that. I think this warband has been really well designed. And it is to do with this battle trait. So if all of your warband are the Helsmiths of Hashut, you have access to this. And I don't think you should play it any other way. So at the start of each battle round, you gain a number of demonic power points equal to the number of friendly desolation tokens on the battlefield. So we'll look at in a second how you get those. But turn 1, you're not going to get any. You might start getting them from turn 2 onwards, start of turn 2. For each point, or for each fighter, when you activate a fighter, you can choose to spend demonic power points on them, and you can spend 1, 2, or 3. If you spend 1, then the crits for melee attacks are going to go up by 1. And the first crit, a single crit, is going to go up if you're doing ranged. So not quite as good with the range, but that's fine. I mean, you're probably not going to be getting a lot of crits anyway. So getting an extra 1 is good. For 2 demonic power points, you're getting to add the strength to that attack. You are also getting the benefit of the crit, so it is cumulative. And then for a 3 point spend, you're also getting a +1 attack characteristic as well. So you can get a lot of damage out of this. And assuming that we're able to if we have a great situation where we've got 6 points rolling in from turn 2, you're going to be able to boost 2 of your fighters every turn, and will let you focus your damage on where it's going to be the most effective. So how do we get these? The double Leave the Land in Ruin. So you pick each obstacle within 3 inches of this fighter and give those obstacles a desolation token. Okay, so you need to be within 3 inches of obstacles, and it's all the obstacles that you're in range of. Then a number of tokens are going to get dropped, and then those tokens are going to start generating from the next turn onwards. So really you're going to want to rush out your fighters turn 1, drop a bunch of doubles, and get tokens scattered all over the place. The larger a fighter is, the more tokens they're going to be able to get, because they'll be closer to the various obstacles. So this will really depend on the battlefield. You are going to need to discuss with your opponent what constitutes an obstacle. So I've given the quote here that we pulled from Warcry. It basically is a terrain feature that blocks them from moving. So a wall is a good example of it. Now, a piece of terrain might have multiple obstacles in it. And for this warband, it's going to be super, super relevant. So it is something to agree beforehand with your opponent. There might be different interpretations. It might be something to kind of clarify with a judge ahead of time, just to make sure everyone's on board. Because the more of these demonic points you're going to be able to generate, the better this warband is going to be. There's a quad. I don't particularly like it, so it counts as having had a 3 demonic power points spent on it. But for quad, I think I'll probably find better things to do with it instead. The great thing about these demonic power points is that they are a boost, but they haven't used an ability yet. So you are able to use an ability on top of them. They're also going to be floating damage. So if you're attacking 4 times, you can use your demonic power points on maybe the 2 that are going to be the most impactful, the most relevant. So there is that to keep in mind. The warband also has a reaction called disposable lackeys. Basically, if one of your fighters are getting attacked, they can take a reaction to pull a Hobgrot close and have the Hobgrot take the damage instead. It's interesting. It's fun. I don't really like the Hobgrots. You might have maybe 1 or 2 in the warband if you felt you had room and felt you needed to protect a fighter. It might be good if the Deathbringer, for example, was causing you problems over your Dominator. Your Dominator could throw a Hobgrot in and then murder the Deathbringer as soon as it gets a chance. So that could be a kind of a meta choice, but broadly I don't particularly like this ability, but mostly because it means bringing Hobgrots fighters that you're just going to throw away. This is a baseline. Occasionally I bring this up in videos. You're looking for move 4. We're going to get a lot of move 3s. You're looking for toughness 4. You're looking for 3 wounds per 25 points, and you're looking for 1 average damage per 25 points. That last one is very ambitious. You're not going to get that a lot of the time, but it kind of gives you an idea. So let's get into our first fighter. This is the War Despot. So just as I was talking about a second ago, 175 points is 7 times 25, so you expect around 7 damage. He's not doing 7 damage, he's doing 5.3 damage. So it's a little lower than what you expect. 7 by 3 for wounds would be 21, so he's a little bit better for wounds. We were saying 4 move is kind of what you're hoping for. This 3, which is lower, and then the 5 toughness is better than that 4 toughness. So that kind of gives you perspective. We'll skim through those, but if you need to kind of redo that in your head just to get a baseline, and it's not always accurate, it doesn't always kind of show the what a fighter can do, but I find it's kind of a good rule of thumb. You do have reach, so it's reach of 2, which is great. And that 5.3 is decent damage. It is fine. Now, if you empower it, so spend a 3 point on it, that's going to be 5 attacks, 4 strength, and 2 5 damage. So you're going to be doing 9.1 on your first hit. That's pretty good. It's only going to account for 1 attack. So if you're next to your target and you're empowered, you're going to be doing 9.1 for the first one and 5.3 on average for the second one. But that is still pretty chunky. What's that? That's 14.4 damage. So you're kind of doing 7 average damage, which is pretty much what we're expecting for that 175 points. So this is why I think it's been built in. This is why I think they have costed them with the idea of the demonic power points being used. And if you are able to generate enough demonic power points and put them into the fights that actually really matter, then this will be very, very effective, and these points fighters will be very, very efficient. The ability is fantastic. So it's a double. You pick 3 friendly visible fighters, and they each get to make a bonus move action of up to 3 inches. So a lot of fighters are going to be 3 inches. Being able to zoom them along is great. We've seen varieties of this. Often you see them as triples, so I think this double is very, very good. Very, very good. Next up, we have the Ashen Elder. So this is what we would call a sorcerer or wizard style profile. Notably, it has that 7 range and that 3-point average damage ability. So this fighter's going to move in position, and you're probably just going to use their range ability twice, doing 6 damage. Largely, these are interesting because of the abilities. In this case, it's a triple. Furnace Blessings. You pick a friendly fighter, and for the rest of the battle round, they get +1 to attack and +1 to strength of attack actions made by that fighter. That's really good. It does not say melee, so it is going to benefit your range fighters, which is super good. And yeah, this is the kind of this kind of is the first example of the kind of comboing that you're going to be getting within this particular faction. So you can use the Ashen Elder on one of your fighters. You can demonic power that fighter, and then you can spend a double or a triple on that fighter themselves to get this cumulative rolling effect where the damage multipliers just really, really accelerate. Next up, and from the same box, we have the Demon Smith. So the profile is basically the exact same. He does less melee damage, but you don't really care about that. And the points are a good chunk less. I quite like this one. Although, sorry, the previous fighter didn't have a range, just visible, which is amazing. This ability, again, it's a double. It does a range of 8 inches. If you pick a enemy fighter, you subtract 2 from their toughness characteristic. So it's like giving a +2 strength bonus to one of your friendlies, which is really good. So again, more of this comboing thing. You can also target some of your friendlies. If it's someone who doesn't have Terrifying, and Terrifying is on the Dominators, then you add 2 toughness to them. So it's a bit of a defensive option. And if you pick the Dominator, it's going to heal it for 3. Now, we'll see in a second, the Dominators are quite big. They're probably not going to need healing. So I think this fighter's mostly here for debuffing. So doing a -2 toughness to a target. It is a double. If you wanted to, you could wait as your first action and then use this double, and then wait again, spending another double on it and reducing the toughness of a target by 4. That could be pretty effective, especially once you get into the abilities that we're about. The weapons. Weapons we're going to see in a second, or we're going to see now. So this is the Dominator engine. So 300 points, super chunky. The 40 wounds is really good for 300, and that 7 toughness means it is going to be really hard to break through. I think turn 1 you normally don't get any damage down. Turn 2, 3, 4 you're going to need to do about an average of 14 damage each turn through that toughness 7 and having a Dominator not murdering you back. So there's a good chance the Dominators are never going to die ever. They're just so chunky and so tough. So that's fun. They're quite fast move at 5 as well, which kind of surprised me, I have to admit. And if they start running the double, they do have a double, the Demonic Furnace Heat, which reduces the attack characteristics by 1 of a melee attacks made against visible fighters. So that 3-inch, it is an 80mm base, so that 3-inch is actually quite a spread. But largely, I think it's going to be affecting anyone who's trying to attack into the Dominator engine. Now, you can position it so it'll affect other targets, but largely it's kind of a protective measure. And as I said, with that 7,040 wounds is going to be tricky to get through. This particular one, it's going to melee, which isn't really relevant, and it's got a range 5. Now, the range 5 is interesting because with the large base, this can be tricky to maneuver and get into position. So the thinking, I remember most of us haven't actually played any games with these yet, but the thinking is that 5 range is going to let them get into position and then shoot at things that they can't reach otherwise. It's got 12 dice, which is bonkers. So you're going to be rolling 24 dice if you're attacking. And it's got 2 strength. So this is a position where you're going to want a combo. You're going to want to increase the strength, demonic power it, reduce the strength of your target. And if you're able to do that, then you're going to get more damage out of it. Now, it is 2-2. So right now, 5s and 6s are probably going to be doing damage for you. If you can manage to get to the target's toughness, then you're going to be doing it. You're adding an extra 4 damage, so that 8 will go to 12 essentially. And then if you manage to beat it, you add an extra 4 damage on top. So with a little bit of comboing, this could be doing 16 damage on average, which, that's for one attack. So in a double attack, it could do 32, and that is without empowering it. Now, empowering it is just going to give an extra +1 strength, which will be significant, and +1 dice, and +1 crit on the first crit. But, so, yeah, I mean, if that strength is going to push you over, then it'll be significant. Otherwise, the empowering this one may not be the way to go. The other option is to go for the melee, so the Bane Maces. So a little bit more straightforward of a profile. So it's doing 10 damage and 13.3 if you do empower it. Now, what's interesting about this is the flip. So rather than 12 dice and 2 strength, this is 4 dice and 8 strength. So strength bonuses aren't going to benefit this particular fighter, but every extra attack you get on this is going to get an extra 2.5 damage on average. It does still have 2 reach, so it's not the 6, but you are going to be able to hopefully reach out and touch fighters that might otherwise be difficult to get into. I like them both. I'm looking forward to trying them out and seeing how they go. We have 2 types of Bull Centaur. So the first is the United Sentinel, which I'm looking at here, and it's notable because it's got a reach of 2 in comparison to the next one. a little bit more expensive, and it does a good chunk of damage. So that's 6.6. It boosts nicely, so it boosts up to 9.1. And why is that? It's a melee attack, so that 4 is going to go to 5. It'll be 2/5 for the damage. It'll be 4. Okay, so I guess it's 6.6. Once it gets an extra attack, you're going to take a quarter of that and adding it on. No, yeah, still, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, the ability is a straight damage one. So if you've already moved and you're next to a friendly fighter, you get to add 1 to your attack rolls, which is an interesting one because it means a lot of the time this fighter is going to be wounding on 2 and critting on 5s. So yeah, that is very interesting. It's a different approach. We haven't really seen one where the dice get modified like this before, but pretty cool. This is a fast fighter at 9 speed. The 18 wounds aren't great for the points you're spending, but that 9 speed, that 9 move could get you into positions on turn 1 that maybe you couldn't get otherwise, and might let you desolate the area and get those demonic power points rolling. The Bull Centaur is similar, but a different ability. So rather than just boosting damage like the previous one, this one actually gives you an additional move. Now, it's a bit weird. You have to take your first move and then end up in melee. And then you get to take the triple will then give you a free move of 8 inches rather than 9. And you are able to move through enemy fighters. And yeah, you can ignore the... It does ignore the fact that you're in combat, so you actually do get a move rather than being forced to just withdraw. But then you must end in combat with something. So you move 9, then you move another 8. You have to be in combat, so something was trying to block you, and then you have to end up with something. So you might end up moving around a target to get the far side of it, or if something's blocking you and you're trying to get maybe a target with treasure, you might charge up something and then charge through it to attack. So you will have an attack action left at the end of that second move, and it will give you an extra attack dice on it, changing that 5 to a 6. Boosting this one is very effective, and it's largely because that strength 4 is changing to a 5, so you're moving into a different damage bracket. Again, yeah, I think these are interesting in that it's a really fast fighter. You're able to get into position and you're able to desolate things to get these demonic points going. And again, we can see that like being able to hit something with 10. Now that does rely on the target being toughness 4, but yeah, that's impressive. Okay, some range weapons. We've got 2 options here. So this is a range 15. So it's got a bunch of a dead zone. So under 6 inches, but that normally isn't too much of a bother. So at 15 inches, you're doing 3.3 damage. You're probably going to double that and for double attack, and it's probably going to be 6.6. Not bad. It is pricey enough, so yeah, at the top you can see 125. That's like estimated that I could calculate for it. So you're paying a lot for this. So you're slow at 3 move, but obviously the range attack makes up for it. And the 12 wounds aren't necessarily great. So what are we saying? 150. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 by 3. You'd be looking for 18 wounds at this point bracket normally, and you're only at 12. So, yeah, not great. The ability is a triple, so you can account 1 hit from the next missile attack action, maybe with fighter as a critical hit instead. That, interestingly enough, does help. If you empower, now, I have been marking the empowers here for the range attacks. It's not entirely accurate because it's assuming that all of the crits are being increased, but only the first one is on average. But in this case, you're going to switch one of your... So if you empower this, you're getting 3 dice. And if you hit with one of them and don't get any crits, making that hit of 2 damage to a crit of 5 damage is going to be a +3 increase. That could be good. That said, I mean, it's for a triple. It's probably not worth it. You're probably just going to blast away with these guys and, maybe debuff a target and buff the attacks some other way to get things going. The other option, again, quite similar. Points cost a little bit lower. Actually, a lot better at this case. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 3. So we were looking for 15. We've got the 12 wounds. but the damage is 4. We've seen something similar with the Horns of Hashut, and the Flame Hurler was always very good in that. Now, a lot of it was down to the ability in that case, and this is a different ability. But being able to do 4 damage at range 6 and then do it again as a second action is pretty good. It does follow the model of the Dominator, so lots of dice, 6 dice, 1 1 strength, and then does 2 damage. So this is something that if you're able to boost the strength of or reduce the toughness of the target, it could be very, very effective. The ability is a double. Scorched Remains. Pick an enemy fighter that was allocated any damage points. So you have to do some damage, and that fighter cannot use abilities for the rest of the battle round. That's pretty cool. Now, it's not reactions, it's just abilities, but it could neuter a key fighter, which is interesting. Definitely a nice tool to have in the arsenal. This is the Infernal Cohort with Hashut Spear. So this is your standard guy. And overall, he's solid. So 12 for 85 points is decent. It's good. So what, 333? Yeah, so you'd expect that for 100. 5 toughness is great. The 3 is dwarf levels, unfortunately. Damage of 3, again, is kind of what you expect for 75 points. So this is good. If you empower it, it goes up to 6, which is healthy. So yeah, again, it's because that's looking at target or toughness 4. So if you push the strength up to 4, then all of a sudden you're in a different bracket. The ability is also good. So a double Discipline March. You basically add 2, making them a 5-move fighter, and they can move actions even within 1 inch of any fighter. So if you wanted, these guys can move for a total of 10. That's really good. Okay, so normally we do have problems with 3-move fighters, but this is a place where they're able to come around it. Maybe you will want to use the doubles for other things, especially the spoiling land. But yeah, like as a core fighter, this one is really good and quite solid. This is the same, except we're looking at it in melee. Now, one thing I did notice here that I thought was quite interesting is, again, this is against T4, but the damage being done by this fighter when empowered is less than the one with the spear, but that's purely due to the nature of the target is assumed to be T4. So bringing this fighter from strength 4 to strength 5 makes no difference. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these. I think that extra little bit of reach is useful. You are going to do a little bit more damage on the straightforward, like 3.5 rather than 3. Otherwise, and sometimes actually getting into melee and locking fighters down can be effective. So while I know a lot of people favor the spear, the blade does have value. You're going to get a lot of box, so you'll have options. In that same box, you will get the Infernal Cohort Musician. This is a very, very cool ability. So yeah, the fighter is largely just a ability box. It's not terrible. So 2.3 rather than the 3, you're still going to be doing some damage on it if you want. But the ability is a double. It removes a Gaunt token. So this is a weird case where they actually are going to be using that Hobgrot model as a token rather than a fighter. So make sure your opponent is aware if that's something you want to do, and remember that they can move around it, they can move through it. It's not actually not actually a fighter. It's not actually something that they need to. It's just a token. That token can be anywhere. Anyway, the point is, friendly fighters with these marks are going to get +1 attack within 12 inches. So that is really, really good. And they are going to get it to themselves. Yeah. So they will give the bonus to themselves straight away, which I think probably brings them up to the same profile as a normal sword-carrying Infernal Cohort without the shield. So you have one less toughness. So, yeah. Really, really good ability if you're going to be using a lot of the Infernal Cohorts, or just generally anything that's going to benefit from getting +1 to melee attacks. It is only melee, so your ranged fighters aren't going to benefit. This is very, very good. Here we have the Hobgrot Vandal. So this is your target for a reaction. It's fine. It's I mean, it's 85 is what you're getting for your normal troops. This is 65, and it's a significant drop in the quality of the fighter. Really, they're just there to save guys when you need them. So I'm not a big fan. It is something that you can bring in, or you need to bring in if you're going to use reaction. But, I think it's kind of situational. There is another set of fighters. So outside the main set of Age of Sigmar models, there are these Spite Wood models, and they did get profiled as well. So let's have a quick look through. First, we have Zuldraka, who is the leader of the group. So, yeah, again, I have 155. I think she's maybe a little bit overcosted. 25 is good. The 5 is toughness is good. The 3 strength or 3 movement is what it is. She does a reach 2, which is good. So she's very similar, I guess, to the Despot. Yeah, same price, same stats, same everything. Yeah, so it's just the ability differs. And the ability of the War Despot is moving people around, and the ability for Zuldraka, unfortunately, is a quad. So not great, but it does give a bunch of your fighters doubles for free, which is interesting. Now, they don't use ability dice, but they still count of having used abilities. So you're not going to be able to stack things up. And if it is any of your fighters in the same warband, then you're going to be able to give them... they'll have values of 6s. So the War Despot gives a free move of 3. What you could do with Zuldraka is you could boost your Infernal cohorts, so they're getting the +2 to their move. So Zuldraka might be more effective, but you're doing that in a quad, right? In a double. Anyway, she's interesting. I don't think she beats out the War Despot purely because her ability is a quad and his ability is a double. But as we'll see, there is some merit to her. So this is Imnidrin, the banner bearer for these guys. So where do the... Again, we're kind of comparing this to... This is very similar to the Musician. These are almost identical stats to the Musician, but without that bonus. And the double is going to... It's very similar to the Dispossessed ability. So with the Dispossessed, you are able to count as more fighters when contesting objectives, and that was super, super good. In this case, you get that same benefit, but only fighters from this Underworlds warband, so the 5 that are in it, and only if they are next to the leader. So you pop this double, and then anyone within 3 inches of Zuldraka, which includes herself, will count as 1 additional friendly fighter when they're turning control of objectives. One of the great things about the Dispossessed one, in my opinion, was the fact that you never knew where it was going to go. So if you had 2 Dispossessed fighters, you could put it on... You could activate the ability at either side. Here we are limited, but still, it's an effective ability. It is quite good. If you're going to take Zuldraka, you take Imnidrin, and between the 2 of them, they would count as 4 fighters, if I understand this right. Could be interesting. Okay, well, I'm not immediately convinced, but it's something you could put in. So this is Mordok. Mordok is very, very similar to a Infernal cohort with the sword, but he is 1 less toughness and has a different ability. So he's traded out the bonus move ability, the increased movement ability, for a double demonic vigor. So add 1 to the damage what's allocated by each crit for the next melee attack action made by its fighter. And if the value of this ability is 6, add 1 to the strength characteristics of that attack action and 1 to the attacks characteristics. So if you got a double 6, this guy, he just demonic powers up himself with a double, and then you could demonic power him up again with some demonic power points. Does he benefit? Is it worth giving up that movement ability, though? And losing 1 toughness? I'm not sure. I mean, it's probably a good place to have the fighters where, you're kind of considering things and you're not 100% either way. I think if you put Murdoch into a warband, or replaced him with an Infernal Cohort with sword, it largely be much for much. I don't think there's you're going to get critiqued either way. Then we have Tokor, who is the equivalent of the Razor with Flame Hurler, and actually the points are exactly the same. The difference is the ability. So the Flame Hurler will prevent abilities being used, but Tokor will prevent reactions being used. So they're very, very similar. And then Tokor has a bonus that if you're using a 6/6 on the ability, it'll do both. So it'll prevent reactions and it'll prevent abilities. So I guess the question is which you're looking for. If you're really interested in the abilities, the Flame Hurler is going to be reliable because it's not going to require 6/6s. But obviously, if you do have a 6/6, then this Tokor is more effective. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an option. I think for the time being, I'll probably stick with the Flame Hurler. Right now, this warband hasn't completely convinced me. This is Grisk, the Hobgoblin out of the group. I'm not sure if this one's necessarily intentional, but the ability, the reaction, looks for a Hobgrot Vandal, which is a particular fighter, and Grisk is not a Hobgrot Vandal, so you cannot pull him in and have him die, which is unfortunate because his ability would be fantastic to it. So it's a double, and the next time this fighter is taken down, all remaining damage points that will be allocated to them are ignored, and then you remove 1 damage. So he will have 7 damage still on him. And if the ability is a 6, remove D3. But the idea would be you would activate the double, sacrifice Grisk, and he'd come back for 1, and he'd do the same again the next turn. But unfortunately, you're not able to do that because he's not a Hobgrot Vandal, he is just Grisk. So, interesting options in there. I don't think that Underworld Warband is necessarily an essential purchase. I think a lot of them are kind of versions of fighters that already exist. One of the questions I often get asked when I do these reviews is, what would you put together for a warband? Off Meta Musings has got a great video that he churned out at record speed, and he's talked about a few different kind of components and things you can put together when you're making up one of your warbands. Do check that out and see what you think. Obviously, no one has played any of these. No one has played this warband yet. Well, rules came out. I guess someone might have, but I certainly don't have the experience. And I don't think the majority of people who are currently talking about them have actually got games played. We're largely just looking at the numbers and kind of making assessments right there. But I've been thinking about what I would like to buy. If I was getting into this, this would be where I would start. I would start with the War Despot and the Infernal Cohort. Now, I might get the Razors as well, but they would be the third purchase. Now, War Despot just looks like a solid leader. The Infernal Cohort has a bunch of stuff in it. So obviously you've got your Infernal Cohort, but it's also got your Gong. And one of your fighters can be built as the leader of the unit. It can be built with a 2-handed weapon. And I think you could get away with calling that a second War Despot for a game of Warcry. It's a very distinct model. It's got a nice big hat. It's looking quite similar to the War Despot. And yeah, it's got a nice 2-handed weapon that looks like it's got a bit of reach. So yeah, and I think with that, then you're able to double War Despot, Gong, and then enough guys to fill out the warband, and you probably have something interesting to play. You certainly have a lot of fun with it. Next box will be Infernal Razors to get some Flame Hurlers and some Blunderbuss. Again, I don't know how they would play. I would probably go 3 Blunderbuss, and I would probably go for 2 Flame Hurlers and see how that starts. Or you might go for 2 for 2 and leave 1 unbuilt while you work things out. Now, one of the unique things about this warband is obviously the Dominator engine. I think, based on the assemblies I've seen and the sprues I've seen, I think you can actually build the Dominator engine and then magnetize the arms. So I think it would be possible to switch between the 2 configurations and have both options. The consensus right now seems to be to go for the cannons, but I have to admit I'm a bit of a fan of the mace. So yeah, that's something that I'm going to see if I can make that work, so we can get the combination. Now that Demon Smith box does have 2 fighters in it. It has the Ashen Elder as well as the Demon Smith. There's an optional build in it, so you could buy 2 boxes of that, or just buy 1 box and pick which one you preferred. And we're already in a lot of fighters, so I don't want to undersell the amount of work, effort, and money that's being spent on here. But I think at that point you've got what I would consider all the major components. The last piece for me would be the Bull Centaurs. I do like the idea of having a fast unit that you can on turn 1 get into positions and desolate some obstacles. I don't particularly like the Hogrot Vandals. I've made that relatively clear in this layout. The box you'd be buying would have 20, and you'd probably just want 1 or 2, and you're just going to sacrifice them. I think I might have a look and see if my Swamp Orcs, my Cruel Boys, have any Hogrots that would fit, and then just paint them up in the same style, and then use those instead. And that would be everything. Now, obviously, we might get more models for the Bull Cent or for the Helsmiths of Hashut in time. But yeah, I think that would give you all the tools you need to experiment and play around. All right, in summary, I really like the design of this warband. It is very, very interesting. So as I said, it looks to me like they took that demonic power ability and baked it into the profile. So I think all the profiles are a little bit weaker than they should be for damage. But you have this floating demonic power that you can pick which fighter you want to empower up and do that extra damage with. And when you're playing like that, it means that the damage is going to be in key positions and key fighters. Now, it is going to be quite important on turn 1 to get those obstacles down. And it is going to be a bit of a frustration if you get onto a map and maybe it's got 1 building and your opponent says, yeah, there's 1 obstacle. I mean, I'm not sure what you do in a scenario like that or a situation like that. It would be quite frustrating. Because, yeah, if you only are able to generate 1 demonic power per turn, that's pretty terrible. And on the flip side, if it's littered with obstacles, and if you're able to get 6 to 9 power going every turn from turn 2 onwards, this warband could be bonkers good. Now, you might have some problems moving the Dominator engine around, but if 3 of your fighters are getting boosted on their first attack each turn, then yeah, that could be very interesting. So yeah, I like the design. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to be heading into Games Workshop tomorrow, and I'm going to have to seriously consider whether I start picking up these boxes. But yeah, right now I'm very, very tempted to do so. All right, that's everything on this. If you got any questions, please put them in the comments, and have a great week.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible 2-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.